Hello, I'm Rebecca of Pocketful of Poseys. Today's video is a little bit different because it's not a costume, but it is for Freya, my dress form. A couple of years back, I made this dress form from the Bootstrap DIY pattern, and I have really enjoyed using the dress form, whose name is Freya, ever since. I use her all the time to try things on, to drape things, to do all kinds of costuming. And since I am now in the process of making my 1830s Gentleman Jack Tib Norcliffe inspired costume, I realized that the neckline of her gown is quite wide and Freya was not able to hold it up. So I realized Freya needs an arm. That will help, especially with working with that wide collar and also with the sleeves, the big puffed sleeves that I'm so excited about. I wanted to share my process of adding this arm to Freya, and so without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. Luckily, I kept my scraps of sturdy, non-stretch twill from when I made the dress form, so I can have a matching arm. I got all of my pieces cut out. There are 2 cardboard inserts at the armhole and wrist. The pattern is 7 pieces plus the 2 cardboard inserts. My first step in assembling the dress form arm was pinning the upper arm pieces together on one side as well as the lower arm pieces, matching notches. To the machine to sew the upper arm and lower arm inner seams. Next, I ironed the seams I just sewed open. The next step is pinning and sewing the upper arm and lower arm together, matching notches. There were some optional instructions for zigzagging down the middle of the arm as well as zigzagging on the outside of the seams, but I chose not to. Lucius was very helpful and also in need of cuddles as I sewed the center arm seam. I next sewed the dart at the top of the arm. I could have done a neater job, but I was rushing a bit. Hercules lent his support for the next steps. He needed to make sure my scraps would make a comfortable bed. Pinning and sewing the full outside arm seam was next on the agenda. Time to turn my attention to the wrist. I stay stitched around the wrist and clipped around the entire opening, making sure not to cut into the line of stitching. I then pinned the wrist piece to the clipped opening. Sewing the wrist seam was a little fiddly, but I took my time and it worked out fine. I trimmed the wrist seam allowance. Then I inserted the wrist cardboard piece and started stuffing the arm. The shoulder piece was next. I used the same twill for lining rather than a different fabric. I pinned the 2 pieces right sides together, sewed them, and trimmed the seam allowance. I turned it right side out and have just realized I forgot to understitch the lining. Oh well. The armhole covering pieces are pinned wrong sides together and basted to each other. The bottom edge of the shoulder piece is basted together as well. Also, my table and sewing room in general is an utter disaster at the moment. I really need to spend some time cleaning and reorganizing. The next step is pinning and sewing the shoulder piece bottom edge to the top edge of the armhole cover piece. Lucius needed more cuddles. After sewing, the shoulder and armhole combined edge is pinned to the top of the arm. This was the fiddliest bit since the arm is already stuffed. I then removed the basting stitches and inserted the armhole cardboard between the two layers of the armhole cover. I pinned it in place and sewed the opening shut with a fairly wide backstitch just to keep the cardboard secure. I finished stuffing the upper arm. Then I folded the open edge of the arm over the armhole cover bottom edge and sewed them together by hand. Then the arm was done. I put it on Freya and pinned it in place. I'm happy with this little project. I like that it's pinned on and can be removed if I want, and I'm excited to use it to fit my Gentleman Jack dress bodice. Have any of you made or are any of you planning to make the Bootstrap dress form arm? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't, and if you'd like to be notified whenever I upload, you can hit that little bell icon. If you'd like to support the channel further, I have a Ko-fi account and that is linked down below. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you on our next sewing adventure. Bye!